begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words, let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Every sound, every line brings us closer to turning our learners into super posers. Phonics and fun, on a journey we'll lead. With every Tuesday, we plant another seed. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Step by step, we'll find our way. Through every challenge, come what may. In our group, you're never alone. Together we'll turn this skill into a stone. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll read, together we'll rise, together we'll rise. Teaching Tuesdays, the skies.
Good evening, everyone. I am Katina Taylor, founder and executive director of Dreams KC, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Teaching Tuesdays. This is week 50 episodes, either live or pre-recorded, that have come to each and every one of you to ensure that our children are becoming confident and competent readers. So again, welcome. For those of you that are new, haven't met me before, or haven't joined us for Teaching Tuesdays. So if you've ever wondered how to truly understand where your child stands in their literacy journey, especially your adolescent learners, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into practical, easy to use strategies that will help you assess your child's reading comprehension and writing skills right at home. You don't need to be a teacher, just an engaged parent ready to support your child in becoming a confident and competent reader. So let's go ahead and get started, you guys. All right, we're going to dive right in. Let's see. Hope you all can see my screen. Yes, here we go. So we are here every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube and in our private Facebook group. For those of you that are normally with us in our private Facebook group, tonight, for some reason, there was a technical glitch with Facebook, and so it did not broadcast into the group. But aren't you glad that we are also live on YouTube? So again, join us over on YouTube. If you have joined us, great. Like the video, share the video, comment with any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have. All right. I just want to make sure that you guys have exactly what you need to ensure your children are becoming confident and competent readers. All right. So as I said, this is episode 50. That means every single week for almost a year now. We are 2 weeks shy of a year. I have been joining you live and or with a pre-recorded video to, again, ensure that your children have mastered those foundational literacy skills so that they are competent and confident children, literacy learners. So all of 2024, we focused on those early readers, right? Pre-K through third grade. For this season of 2025, we're really focused on the adolescent learners. And when we hear the term adolescence, we often think that we are talking about children that are teenagers, because that's generally how we associate adolescence. However, in the education space, when we say the term adolescent, what we mean is anyone in fourth grade or above. So that's 4th through 12th grade literacy learners that we are focused on in 2025. However, if you have a child that is younger than 4th grade, you still need to be here because the skills are the skills. They do not change. What does change is the materials, the supplies, and some of the strategies we use to teach those foundational skills. So I just want to make sure that you know you can still be with us whether you have an adolescent literacy learner or not, and get just as much from our Teaching Tuesdays as anyone else. I also will say this, Teaching Tuesdays is the tip of the iceberg. If you're familiar with the iceberg principle, what we see above water is about 10 to 15%. Dreams KC, the education nonprofit that I run, we do in-person parent literacy trainings where we go and take a deeper dive. So what's below the surface, below the water, is that other 85 to 90% that will actually ensure you or support you, empower you, actually with the tools that you need to make sure that your children are taught the foundational literacy skills that they need, again, to become confident and competent readers. All right. So I want us to take a moment just to acknowledge that March is National Reading Month. And so originally, the National Education Association, NEA, had this pegged as like Read Across America Day, Dr. Seuss birthday, things like that. Well, it has really grown and evolved and changed. And we acknowledge March as National Reading Month. We also know that it's Women's History Month. So I will say be on the lookout for Dreams KC this month to actually incorporate the theme, which is join in many different ways. And these are some of the ways that we will be inviting you to join in and read, join in and learn, etc. So be on the lookout for these engaging, interactive pieces of content that will be coming across, and a sneak, I'm not going to say a sneak, a long awaited surprise for each and every one of you. All right. So I just want to make sure you all are aware of what's happening. So let's go ahead and dig into the meat of what we're talking about today. And it is assessing adolescent literacy skills at home. It is extremely important that we just don't rely on the assessment tools that schools, teachers, school districts use when assessing our children. If we are actually the first and most important educators of our own children, we should be doing some of the assessment ourselves. And I will tell you that these are simple steps to identify areas of growth and for you to be able to support your adolescent's academic success. All right. So you don't have to be a teacher. Don't say, oh, I didn't go to school, I don't have a degree. It's not necessary. You will be able to do this in a relatively short amount of time, be able to pinpoint where your adolescent literacy learner needs some support. You'll be able to focus on those particular skills and assist them in closing any gaps that they may have in their literacy development. All right. And move them forward. So, why should we be assessing literacy skills anyway, right? And we've said this before, and I'll repeat it here tonight. The earlier we identify challenges, struggles, difficulties that students and children have, then the better we can put an intervention or support plan in place to ensure that those gaps, those challenges don't get worse over time. That's why we want to do the assessments. We want to do them often, but not in a way that's going to bring angst or frustration to the student or the child, okay? It also allows us to increase their academic performance across all content areas if, in fact, we are addressing the literacy needs of them, because in previous Teaching Tuesday sessions, we've already talked about how poor literacy skills impact other content areas. So we want to ensure that we are assessing early, we're assessing often, we're identifying areas of struggle or difficulty, and then we're putting a place in to shrink, close, eliminate, eradicate those challenges for our children and students. So how do we? We're jumping right in. Now, remember, I always tell you all again, any comments, questions, concerns, drop them right on into the chat. I'll be able to address those. Remember to hit that like and share button, share out our content so other parents of adolescent learners get the information that they need, right? And remember that my goal is to give you actionable tools, resources, etc., that you need, that you can implement immediately so that you begin to assist your child, your students, right, with any challenges that they may have in the area of literacy. So again, we're diving right in. How do we assess reading comprehension? Why are we addressing reading comprehension and not some of those other skills? Well, remember, we've already talked in previous Teaching Tuesday episodes what shows up most for adolescent literacy learners, and it really is comprehension. So that's why we're focused on comprehension. And two, we're going to focus on writing. So those are the two things that we'll be talking about this evening, okay? Comprehension and writing. Remember, those are not isolated and separate from each other, but they are intertwined, intersectional. They are connected to one another, and they impact one another. All right, so how do we assess reading comprehension? Very easy. We choose a passage that should be interesting and on grade level for our child or our student to read aloud. It shouldn't be really, really long at all. And remember, your goal is to listen as they read, noting, taking notes. How are they reading? Are they struggling with decoding new, unfamiliar words? Are they reading too fast? Are they reading too slow? Are they not reading with expression? right? Are they repeating things where they're having to go back to the beginning of the sentence and read again in order to understand what's happening? Then you want to ask questions after they've completed the read aloud. And I'll talk about the different types of questions that we have to ask our students to ensure or test the comprehension of the passage that they have just read. And then you want to, once you've chose the passage, listen to them read the passage, ask the questions, making notes all along the way. Then you really want to analyze those responses and be able to identify areas of strengths so we can celebrate them. That builds up their confidence. And then we want to talk about how we can help them address any weaknesses that we have seen, identified, or observed in their comprehension. So it's really this 4-step process. It is not difficult at all. Again, you do not have to be a teacher to do this. You can do this in the comfort of your own home. So the key questions that you ask after they have read a passage aloud to you: what was the passage mainly about? Those are knowledge-based questions. Remember last week we talked about Bloom's taxonomy. We want to know that they can repeat what they have read back to us, but then we also go into some of the higher order thinking questions as well. What happened first, next, and last in the story or in the text? What was the main idea? Why did the author write this? What were they trying to get across to us? And then again, why do you think the author wrote this passage? Was it to entertain us, inform us, teach us something? Right? What was the purpose behind the author actually putting this together? And you can go even more in depth, but these are some of the baseline questions that you would want to ask a student when you're looking at their comprehension. I always generally, if there are 1 or 2 specialized vocabulary words in a piece of text or a passage, I will lift those out and actually ask the student, what did that word mean? Just to see also how they're doing with their vocabulary development. Because remember, vocabulary development impacts comprehension. Okay? All right. So what do you want to watch for when you're assessing their comprehension? Can they summarize without going back to the text that they just read? Meaning that it is in that short-term memory going into perhaps their long-term memory. Are they guessing instead of explaining? You know how a student or a child will make a statement, but it's almost as that right at the end, it's kind of like a question to you. So they're really wanting you to give them the answer? No, we want them to be able to explain what that passage or that text was about, what happened, beginning, middle, end, what was the main idea, etc. And then you also want to know and observe whether or not they lack confidence when they're answering those questions. And all of us, because we have some lived experience, we are people, we know what confidence looks like when a person answers a question, sure. I love it. That game show that used to come on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Remember, it's like, is that your final answer? That's my final answer. So I often would challenge students and I'll say, well, are you asking or are you telling? That's one, I always say. And then I go, okay, is that your final answer? And I make it less intimidating in that way, but I want them to understand and know that I'm assessing what they know, what they can do. And I even tell them before we start the assessment that they don't have to be nervous or get anxiety about this. This is an opportunity for me as a teacher, as a tutor, to get information so that I know how best to help them. And when you explain an assessment like that to a student, generally they're going to work a little bit harder. And they're going to give you the information you need to support them versus them hearing the word test or thinking about it in terms of, if I don't do this right, I may be penalized, or it tells you I'm dumb or I'm not smart. That is not what we want for them. Okay. So these are the things that we watch out for as we do these assessments. So then we get into the whole thing around, okay, all right, we've given the assessment, we've asked all the questions, we took out our notes, then what, right? So anytime or during the assessment, even after the assessment, you can go back and talk about it, talk through it. So you really want them to reread any difficult sections of the text if it was giving them a hard time, so you can really ascertain what was challenging for them. Was it the vocabulary? Was it the punctuation? Was it the sentence structure? Is it just that they may have some struggles with decoding new or unfamiliar words? You also want to make sure that they are able to retell the story in their own words. So they are internalizing, or what we say, connecting to the text, which leads us directly into this last piece. Can they make text to text connections? Meaning, can they take what they're reading currently and connect it perhaps to a previous piece of text that they've engaged with? Or can they make a text to self connection? Can they take the text, be it fiction or nonfiction, that they are engaging with now and connect it to their own lives, their self, their lived experience? Or can they make a text to world connection? Can they say this piece of work, fiction and or nonfiction, ooh, this really explains what's happening in the world around us right now, or what happened in the past, or what could potentially happen in the future, right? Can they connect it? They may be able to do all of these with a particular piece of text, or one or two. You may not see all of them all the time with every single piece of text, but they should be able to do one of those at least. All right. So you want to be thinking about that, talking about that, explaining that, asking, can they do that? Does this sound familiar? Can you relate to this? Especially because you know them, you know what their lived experiences have been. Then you should already have something in mind as they read that particular text and go, oh, can you relate to this? And then listen to see if their answer or what you were thinking actually matches. Okay. All right. So then we want to go into the writing. So that's how you assess the comprehension. And you are going to have a QR code at the end of this that is going to link you to some resources that you absolutely are going to want to utilize for this. I am giving you reading passages at each grade level. So 4th through 12th grade, I'm giving you some sample reading passages that you all can utilize to assess your children in the comfort of your own home. I'm giving you questions that you can ask for each of the reading passages that I give you tonight, right? So you'll have a QR code to all of this. So I'm really excited to be able to share these. And actually what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put at the bottom of the screen, you should be able to see it there, a link. And so you'll see that link and I'll keep it there. And that will just consistently be running so you know where to go to get access to those resources. And I have a slide at the end that I have a QR code that you can scan and access those resources as well. So we talked about comprehension. Now we want to go into writing. So you want to get a writing sample from your child. It gives us tons of information, not only about their writing, but also their reading, how they are processing language, letter sounds, etc., spelling rules, etc. So again, in collaboration with the reading comprehension, you get this writing sample and you're able to determine what phase of writing that they're in. These are called Ehri's phases. That's, you see that word, it may be unfamiliar with you, but I'm going to break it all down. So what do? One, you give them a prompt, because oftentimes if you tell them on the spot, write me something, they're like, what do you want me to write about? Well, in the resources that you'll get today, I have writing prompts for every grade level. I think I have 5 for 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, so on up until 12th grade. So you have different ones that should be of interest to any child that you have and you're assessing. So you want to give them the prompt, right? Then you want to observe them as they're writing. Do they get right to work? Can they write for an extended period of time? And then you're actually going to look at the completed writing sample to determine where they are on Ehri's phases. and assess their writing and how that then connects to their literacy journey. And again, we'll talk about this. So the question is, one of the things you want to look at when you're assessing their writing is, are the letters and sounds missing? Are words spelled phonetically or correctly? Big difference. Are sentences complete? Do they make sense? Are they very simple sentences? Are they vivid super sentences is what I call them. If you close your eyes and read that, could you see a picture in your mind's eye? Right? Do they write with a lot of detail? Does your child use punctuation correctly? And then you use these questions in that writing sample to determine what Ehri's phase best describes their writing, and what steps you have to take to improve their writing. Okay. All right. So these are the phases. Here are the phases. I hope you can see this table. So you have the pre-alphabetic, the partial alphabetic, the full alphabetic, the consolidated alphabetic, and the ultimate goal, where we all should be once we are confident and competent writers, right, and readers, is that we should be at that automatic phase where we're writing, we're flowing, just goes, right? We use simple and complex, compound. Excuse me. Let me take a quick swig. We're using different types of sentence structures that best fit what we are writing. And then we work on, as we want to improve our writing, how do we refine our ideas, our voice, so that it's consistent, it sounds like us, it's suitable for the purpose in which we are writing, versus, formal versus informal, etc. So I would suggest you get a screenshot of this, or you look in the resources. This is there as well. So you can tell and analyze where your student is based on this middle column, signs and writing. If they're at the pre-alphabetic phase, it's random, it's no sound letter connection. This is usually what a toddler or kindergartner may do. Like they say, here, mommy, I wrote you this note. And you look at it like, say what now? Because there's no rhyme or reason. They know what some letters are. They may not know what others are. They haven't been able to connect those symbols, those graphemes, those letters to the phonemes, the sounds that they make, and actually then build words, right? For the partial alphabetic phase, you have some sounds represented, but they may generally be missing the vowels. For the full alphabetic phase of writing, words are mostly spelled correctly, not all, but the longer, more complex spelling patterns you have, they may struggle with some of those longer words. And then for the consolidated phase, they recognize word patterns, digraphs, trigraphs, vowel teams, exceptions to general spelling rules, etc. They write in complete sentences. They're able to express their thoughts. They just may need to build their writing stamina so that they're writing longer passages or essays, and they need to organize those thoughts a bit better, right? And as you can see in that last column, it gives you ideas or things to do to improve their writing and move them to the next phase, ultimately getting them to that automatic phase of writing, okay? So, example of what you would do to elicit a writing sample from your child. You'd say, all right, write 3 to 5 sentences about your favorite movie, book, or hobby. And then you want to give them time to do that. And if they get nervous with you sitting and looking over their shoulder or right next to them, get up and move around while you give them an opportunity. Set a timer and let them just write. Let them be alone with their thoughts, organize those thoughts, and then be able to move it from their head to the paper. And your job is to observe. Do they hesitate before getting started? How long can they write before stopping? Because many of our children struggle with the stamina. You say, write me a story. It may be, I don't know, a paragraph. You say, answer 3 to 5 sentences, which is a paragraph about your favorite book. It may be 1 sentence or 2. I don't know, Captain Underpants, period, and that's it. So they may need to build their stamina. and organize their thoughts and things like that. And we may need to work on some of these things with our students, because our students are struggling in totality with literacy, which means writing as well. Okay. So this is kind of an example of how you would elicit or get that writing prompt from your child. So I mentioned tracking writing stamina. So what does that mean? It means how long can your child write before saying my hand hurts or I don't know what to write, right? And I have a table, I believe on the next slide, where you can literally compare. Now, remember, these are guidelines. These are not hard and fast because every child is different. But they're just kind of a little guidepost, so to speak, of where your child should be or could potentially be with their writing stamina for their particular grade level or age group. Okay. So, what is writing stamina? We've already addressed that. That should have probably been up for a little bit further, right? It's the ability to sustain writing for extended periods without frustration, without saying, oh my God, I don't want to do this. My hand hurts. I'm tired. I can't think of anything else to write, right? So we want to bolster, grow, extend the writing stamina for our students. Things that impact or affect stamina is practice. Have we been asking them to write, or are they just texting all the time? Have we asked them to write, or are they always typing? Can they actually write pencil to paper or pen to paper? Do they have a journal, composition book, something where we are asking them to capture thoughts and giving them an opportunity to practice and experience writing on a consistent basis? What are they writing about? They generally will write longer about things they were interested in, they enjoy, they love. You know, if you have a kid that loves rap, hey, write us a rap about some particular concept or book you've read or author you like or movie you saw, right? So if they're interested in it, do they like sports? Write about sports. They generally will write longer about the things that they enjoy. And then, of course, if they have been growing in their reading skills, their decoding skills, etc., that should translate over to their writing. So their spelling should be improving as they learn the rules of the English language. Hope that makes sense, right? But these are all things that can impact or affect writing stamina. So here we go. Here's the slide I was telling you about. So when you think about your child, we have 6th through 12th grade. I should have had 4th and 5th grade in there as well. And I will update this in our resources. But this is what I was talking about. So 20 to 30 minutes, and you see it goes up from there in a session. A 6th grader should be able to write 20 minutes to 30 minutes. 7th and 8th grade, they should be able to write 30 to 40 minutes, so on and so forth. Now, remember, this is not hard and fast. Every single student, maybe somebody has glasses, maybe somebody has a disability, maybe somebody has processing issues, dyslexia, etc. So we understand that things can contribute or impact these guidelines, but they are just kind of ideas, guideposts, that at least you know some information about, oh, I can get my child here, and we'll do this incrementally over time, right? So just some goals to kind of set, some guidelines to take a look at, all right? All right, so how do you, in fact, after you've gotten this sample, you say, well, my kid, my child, my student is not quite at that automatic phase, or they can't write for an extended period of time. How do I increase their writing stamina? Well, you start small. Just set the timer, 10 minutes, then go to 15, then go to 20, then go to 30, right? Over time. That doesn't mean go from 10 minutes one day to 15 minutes the next day. It may be the next week. It may be for some students the next month, because remember, all of us grow our skills at different rates. So, but you should be setting some goals, right? And explaining to them that they're not competing with anyone but themselves. That really helps reduce the tension, the anxiety, and the frustration. I want you to be able to do this for you, because if you desire to go to college or university, you'll be expected to do writing assignments. And You need to be able to write for an extended period of time. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you go into any type of employment and you eventually are going to have to write a report or what have you. Yeah, it may be put out on a computer, but oftentimes we want to outline that. We want to write our thoughts down before we actually get to the laptop, the computer, dare I say a typewriter. I don't know if anybody even has one of those anymore, but in any case, you get what I'm saying. You also want to make sure that what they're writing, again, is something that they may be interested in, passionate about. It needs to be engaging for them. Okay. You want to encourage breaks. If they are getting frustrated, their anxiety level is increasing, they're getting burnt out, they're telling you, oh my gosh, my hand is really hurting. It may be. It absolutely may be. So short pauses, take a deep breath, stand up, stretch, what have you. I often talk about the correct posture when they're writing. Both feet should be flat on the floor. They should be, up to the table or the desk. And one hand is used as a guide while the other is writing. If they don't have that proper writing posture, that also may tire them out, or they get to the burnt out level much quicker than if they're not having the correct posture than if they did. And then you want to set goals. Remember, you want to write 5 more minutes, then gradually 5 more minutes, so on and so forth, as you build and increase that stamina over time. And then celebrate it. Celebrate every single time they make a new achievement. I don't care if your goal was 5 more minutes and they did 1 more minute. That's an accomplishment. I don't care if that goal was 5 more minutes and they did 3 more minutes. That's an accomplishment, right? So we want to celebrate those small wins, those small victories. Why? Because when we celebrate those things, we are feeding their soul, their spirit, their drive to want to do more, right? That builds their confidence. We know that when they operate from a place of confidence, they want to practice more, which leads to the competence. We don't get to competence if we're not practicing and doing. All right. And so we want to ensure that that's what we're doing for those kiddos. You also, again, I said you want to celebrate. You want to give them positive feedback. You always want to talk about the things that they've done well first. Focus on that effort. It's not always about getting it right. We learn most when we make mistakes. So we want to ensure that we are talking about their effort, right? Their improvement, celebrating those wins. We want to boost that confidence and encourage their perseverance, their ability to stick with it. Okay. All right. So here is the QR code that I have for you all. I want you all to scan this QR code and it will take you directly to a Google Drive folder. Just copy the documents from there. Or download them. Do not try to make any changes within the documents themselves. And I will tell you actually you have writing prompts, you have passages for the reading comprehension assessment, you have questions that go with each of the passages as well. You'll see that those names, those scenarios, the story arcs should be relatable to children of color. That was done purposefully to ensure that they are culturally relevant and responsive, and that they don't necessarily buy into or elevate stereotypes or racial tropes of any kind. And that's just not what we do here at Dreams. Okay. So you'll see those passages. You'll see the comprehension questions. You'll see more about Ehri's phases in terms of the writing. You'll have the writing prompts. You have several resources that will really help you and assist you in assessing the reading comprehension and writing of your children. So scan that QR code or go to the link that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen so that you can see exactly what you need to be able to take action immediately in terms of your child, your students, etc. Okay. So what did we talk about today? We talked about comprehension, assessing so we know whether or not your child, your students have a gap in their comprehension skills, need to work on improving those, closing that gap, eliminating that gap. We also talked about how to determine what phase of writing your child is in, and then the steps you can take to move them to the next phase. And then, of course, we also addressed writing stamina. How long can they write before they stop? So that we are ensuring they're able to do the research papers, the essays, the college applications, the scholarship applications, etc. So these are the three things that show up most for our adolescent literacy learners. And I wanted to make sure that you had actionable, practical strategies to assess where they are so that you can then put a plan in place and take them to the next level. All right. So what are the next steps? You want to make sure that once you completed the assessments, you don't want to try to focus on everything at one time. You're not a teacher, you haven't been to school. However, you want to choose perhaps the area that's the most challenging, and you want to begin to address that immediately. And you want to focus on these strategies daily. 3 to 5 days a week, 15 to 45 minutes max. Intentionality and consistency is what is needed and necessary to shrink, close, or eradicate literacy gaps in children. Okay, so I want you to be sure you understand that. Consistent and intentional. Don't try to do everything, that will overwhelm you and your child. Focus on the areas that need the most improvement. Have a conversation with your child's teacher or teachers. This is what we're working on at home. I want you to be aware of that. If you can support me as I work on it at home, that would be really appreciated. Or I also noticed this other area. I'll be working on this. You can be working on this, but can you also incorporate some additional supports for the other areas that I can't get to yet, right? So you want to be asking those questions, working in collaboration as a team with the teacher, with the tutor, with the reading interventionist, with the principal, with whomever is providing that literacy development for your child. It is a team effort, and all of us should be on the same page to ensure that our children are becoming, as I always say, you know it, confident and competent readers and writers. So, again, assessing literacy at home is about progress, not perfection. We're not comparing our children to their best friend, their sibling, the smartest kid in the class, the kid that lives down the block. No, we are not doing that. They are their own individual. Their growth is their growth. Their strengths are their strengths. Their weaknesses are their weaknesses. Our job is to support them in growing. Okay. The more we understand where they are, the better we can support them and take them where they need to go. Right. So you keep observing, you keep encouraging, they will keep growing, and you keep growing in your skills so you can support them as well. All right. So that's what I have. In terms of content, I want to remind you all that we are still taking responses to the book access survey. We want to ensure that we have the data, the information. Does Kansas City, Missouri, KCK as well, Grandview, Raytown, Lee Summit, Blue Springs, the Northland? Do we have book deserts here in Kansas City? How can we address them? Where do those deserts exist? We need the information. I tell you, it takes 10 minutes or less. Scan the QR code, complete the survey. If we have someone whose Spanish is their first language, we have it in Spanish as well. Feel free to share this out. They can take the survey as well. Okay. We want feedback from everyone. And of course, we do our in-person trainings in partnership and collaboration with the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. You see a QR code here. You can scan, sign up. We're there on Mondays and Saturdays at 4510 Linwood Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri. On Mondays, we're there from 6 to 7:30. On Saturdays, we're there from 10:30 to noon. All right. So also mark your calendar. Each and every Thursday, my colleague Cecilia and I talk about education policy in our broadcast Policy Pulse. I encourage you all to listen in so that you are not operating from a place of anxiety or fear or misinformation, fake news, as somebody says. We give you objective information in terms of policy issues that are happening around the K-12 education space. how it may impact you and your children, most importantly, and what you can do to stay informed, stay active, right? And make sure that you are operating from a place of information and not fear. So join us every Thursday, 6 o'clock p.m. We go live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's all I have for you all tonight. As I always say, y'all know it. Y'all want to say it with me? Come on. I'm going to wait for y'all. Y'all want to say it with me? You know what I always say. Until next time, let's get lit, y'all. Bye-bye.
Welcome in. Grab a seat. Let's begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words. Let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Every sound, every line brings us closer to turning our learners into super posers. Phonics and fun on a journey